Hello and welcome to the Irish Film London podcast. I'm your host, Niamh Brannigan, and I'm joined with Gerry Maguire. How are you this week, Gerry?
I'm not too bad, Niamh. Thank you very much.
Good. We missed you last week, but we're back here now today to chat about all things Irish film and TV. So first off, let's chat about some IFL events. We have a screening of The Cured, don't we? David Frayne's feature film.
We do indeed, yeah. So Irish Film London are partnering with two great indie organisations in London called Last Frame Film Club and Token Homo. And between the two of them, they've put together quite a cool series of screenings that they're calling their queer horror nights. So they've already done a screening of Frankenstein. They did one of the more recent version of Carrie, and I think this is the next one on the roster. But do check out the Queer Horror Nights series, and if you want to go and catch David Frayne's The Cured at the Castle Cinema, tickets are on sale right now via the Castle Cinema website. I believe it is on Sunday the 13th of May, and there are still a few tickets available. I am reliably informed that David Frayne will be taking part in an online Q&A, so you'll get to see his gigantic face on the screen, even though he's not there in person. But yeah, that should be good fun.
Amazing. And then we have a few kind of big Irish releases into the world, well, especially into the UK this week. An Cailín Ciúin, which is Quiet Girl, is going to be released this weekend, isn't it?
So at the time of us recording, it's a week until the release of the film. So there'll be a number of previews and stuff happening, but its official release date is next Thursday. So Thursday the 12th, and then general release. Is it general release? I think it's the 11th or 12th. I'm not sure. Whatever next Friday is.
Yes, it says the 12th and the 13th of May, respectively.
Oh, well then, say both of them were right. I was still right. Okay. But yeah, look, that's really exciting. That's an Irish language film that's getting as wide as possible release. Curzon have done a great job of promoting it and getting it into cinemas. It's obviously playing at all the Curzon cinemas. It's playing at some brilliant indie venues in London, including Riverside Studios, the brand new Garden Cinema in Covent Garden, which is very exciting. I dropped in to say hello to those guys last week, and they're putting An Cailín Ciúin on, and it's a lovely space to go and see a film like this, a little boutique place with a beautiful bar, and I know that there are a number of preview screenings happening at the Irish Cultural Centre in Hammersmith, including a couple of events which there's Irish language films which are playing all of this coming weekend at the Irish Cultural Centre in Hammersmith. So they're doing a little season of films to celebrate the release of An Cailín Ciúin. So that includes Aract, another chance to see Tom Sullivan's great film which we had in November at our festival, and also two slightly older films which are Poaching and a bilingual film called Kings, which arguably, when we talk about An Cailín Ciúin being the first Irish language film released in the UK, Kings did get a wide point of release, but it's quite a few years ago, and it's certainly not as much fanfare as this one. But yeah, they're all playing this weekend at the Irish Cultural Centre in Hammersmith. Yours truly will be down, and I'll be on stage interviewing some of the directors and the filmmakers about that, and talking about Irish language stuff. So if you're around Hammersmith, come down, we'd love to see you.
And then also the release of Conversation with Friends is going to be happening, which I cannot wait for. And I'm also delighted because we have an option of watching it quite old school once a week, or we can binge it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll binge it.
I mean, obviously. Which do you prefer though? Do you prefer a binge, or do you like kind of like taking it all in and you know?
I know what you mean. Like, do you know what the thing is? I think I've got more control over my binge now. Like, I
haven't gotten there. I have not gotten there.
Yeah. Like, I started rewatching Derry Girls from the start.
Amazing.
And I have spent a bit more time on Netflix again this last few weeks. I've tucked into Russian Doll, which is good crack, because there's a second series of that. I managed to... It is a lot of fun. I managed to do, I think once or twice I did 2 episodes a night, but I managed to look after myself and go to bed before midnight most nights, you know.
Oh, that's very mature.
Oh, you know, these grey hairs don't come from nowhere.
But I think I binged Normal People because that was kind of peak pandemic.
Yeah, that's slightly different, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean that was a lot. There was a lot going on there at that time. So I think I might take a leaf out of that book and maybe space this one out because I think I overdid it on the Normal People binge. But that's going to be out on Sunday the 15th of May on BBC Three, and it's coming out on Hulu as well. But you will be able to binge it on the BBC iPlayer as well.
Okay.
So that's also very exciting.
Speaking of Derry Girls, have you been catching up with the new episodes?
I have. It's so much fun. I didn't think it could get better. So much fun. And I can't wait for, did you see that there's going to be an extra episode about the mom and the auntie when they were younger?
I did not see that. That's cool.
Yeah, and Shauna Higgins is actually playing the mom, which I'm really excited about. That's going to be so much fun.
That's good. Yeah, okay, I'm looking forward to that as well. So there's just like there's big Irish stuff everywhere. Really at the minute. It's great to see.
Definitely. And then on our kind of film and screen industry news wise, Screen Ireland published a new sustainability plan for the screen industry. So it's outlining sustainability and it kind of just outlines the agency's ambition to help work towards lowering the carbon footprint. And then just kind of like funding, like committing to funding projects that definitely have diversity and equity and inclusion, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really kind of ambitious project to launch. It is.
It is an ambitious. It's full of ambitious targets, and it has like what feels to me like a really clear roadmap for how they want to get there. And like, look, sometimes on this podcast we talk about like slightly boring policy stuff like that, but I think it's the kind of thing that puts the Irish film industry in the right place and sends us in the right direction. Like, you know, we've just talked about all these great things that are happening in Irish film and TV, and the benefit of that, we can only really reap the benefit of that if we remain sustainable and like in every sense of the word. And I think that it's just great that people are grabbing that bull by the horn, so to speak, and making sure that the next generation of films are better and better produced and more responsible. And yeah, you just love to see it.
I think it's just, you know, just especially people outside kind of the film industry or the entertainment industry, you don't really think that an industry like that is thinking about its carbon footprint and its sustainability, you know. And I think it's just it's so important. So the fact that they're doing it and like that, it doesn't kind of feel like a wishy-washy promise or we definitely want to think about our sustainability. Like if you look at the article about it on Screen Ireland, it's got all of its steps, really what it wants to achieve, everything outlined, which is really, really impressive. Yeah,
it is impressive. And so, like, you know, people have said it before, but, you know, we're a country that's associated with the word green, and if more stuff like this happens and we can genuinely be green and put out some green shoots for the future, then we'll remain that way.
Absolutely. And then other really cool news is Irish films entering into the Cannes Film Festival and also Tribeca as well. So another kind of summer ahead of new big Irish films.
Yeah, so a couple of big names on there. Frank Berry's new feature Aisha, which features Letitia Wright and Josh O'Connor. That looks like a brilliant cast for a film. Everything that Josh O'Connor is in, I really enjoy. So I'm looking forward to that. And Letitia Wright's obviously an incredible actor. So looking forward to that. And then the other one that's on the radar there is one called God's Creatures.
That's going to be on in the director's fortnight at Cannes. At Cannes. So the first one's going to be in Tribeca, right? And that actually goes alongside Sinead O'Loughlin's short film Lamb.
Yes.
And then God's Creatures then will be popping up in the Cannes Film Festival. So, and that's going to be featuring Paul Mescal, our Irish film friend Tony O'Rourke, Aisling Franciosi, and also Emily Watson. So really, really strong cast there as well.
Yeah. So Aisha's in Tribeca and God's Creatures is in Director's Fortnight, yeah?
Yeah.
Right. I must keep that the right way around in my head. Yeah. So yeah, they're the big sort of two of the big festival contenders for this year. So like Tribeca, Cannes, Berlin, South by Southwest. We've had representation at all of those big events this year. Antonia Campbell Hughes's debut feature, It Is In Us All, was at South by Southwest a little while ago, featuring Cosmo Jarvis. That's one that I'm really keen to get a look at. Yeah, there's some pretty big stuff coming out this year.
Definitely. And then also we have our Galway Film Flat to look forward to as well.
Oh my god, yeah. So yeah, there's conversations starting about the Fleadh already. Well, I guess we're what are we, 2 months away? T-minus 2 months to the Fleadh.
Oh my god.
Yeah, properly in person, fully open this year, I think.
Yeah, I'd say they'll probably put some stuff online as well, but as a whole, yeah, definitely in person again, which will be amazing. So speaking of film festivals, do you want to remind any of our listeners who might have a film on their hands?
Well, I'm very glad you gave me that opportunity, Niamh, because I totally do want to remind everyone who's got a film on their hands to give me their films. Irish Film London is open for submissions, and at the moment we're open for submissions across 2 different categories. The first one of those is our Irish Film from Home online opportunity. So the Irish Film from Home platform, as any of our listeners probably know, is our own dedicated VOD platform where we screen new and old Irish films, and we give them a broader audience, to a broader global audience, and that's just like something that we do. It's a sort of a background project that's running all the time, but the official submission window is open right now. More importantly, the end of May is your early bird deadline for official selections for the Irish Film Festival London in November. So that is once again taking place at venues all across the city of London. We have 5 days of film screenings, industry events, and an award ceremony which takes place at the Embassy in London. You have to be in it to win it, so please get your films into us right now on Film Freeway. If you submit before the end of May, you get the early bird rate. It's the cheapest way to get it to us. Please don't wait until near the deadline or after the deadline in case you've got any technical issues or anything like that. We want to see your films sooner rather than later so we can start watching them and start talking about how great all these Irish films are. And the one thing to say about that as well is that anyone who submits their film to the festival is automatically in contention for the Irish Film London Awards at the Embassy. So if you get your film in to us, you can be in consideration for an award. We want to hear from anyone who's Irish or living in Ireland or has Irish talent attached to their project. We are not very picky. We will consider all sorts of films for the programme. So yeah, get those into us now. filmfreeway.com/Irish Film Festival London.
Amazing. And I can say, speaking from experience, that the awards itself are worth it. So
yeah.
So
for the speeches alone. For the speeches alone.
For the person who presents the awards, it's worth it alone.
What's her name? Niamh something.
I think it's Niamh Brannigan. But that leads me on to my interview. I hope everyone enjoys. I am joined with the director of new Irish horror film, The Cellar, Brendan Muldowney. So thanks, Gerry, and I hope everyone enjoys.
Nice one. See you next time, Niamh.
Bye. If you're part of the regular Irish Film London audience or want to get more from your experience, consider joining our growing family of members for a range of exciting benefits. Irish Film London is a non-for-profit organisation. Our mission is to promote the best new Irish film to audiences all over the UK, and with the help of this podcast, the world. If you become a festival friend or a festival champion, you get perks like discounted tickets for films and events, free access to Irish Film from Home films, and invites to networking events, and so much more. So check it out now. Hi Brendan, thank you so much for coming on to chat to me today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No worries.
Let's go right back and I guess talk me through the inspiration and the birth of the film. I know it's kind of connected to one of your short films, one of your many short films, the 10 Steps, right?
Yeah, The 10 Steps was a short film we made. When I say we, it's Conor Barry and myself who have Savage Productions. It was SP Films at the time. We made The 10 Steps. It was probably one of the last shorts we made, or I made, in 2004, and it went out into the world in 2005, and was really successful for us. It won Best Short at the Sitges International, or the Sitges Fantastic Film Festival, which is a hardcore horror festival. And there was many more festivals like that. The Ravenna Festival does it, like, it did really well on the genre circuit, but it also at the same time was in these children's film festivals. So it was in the New York International Children's Film Festival, where it won best film there as well. So I don't know, we knew there was something special about it, that it was sort of hitting a broad audience, and over the years I've seen it taught in schools still to this day. Even just recently on Twitter, I saw it in a school in Barcelona. They're using something called story blocks or something. I don't know what these are, but they're obviously a storytelling device they use to teach storytelling. And the 10 steps, they're all coming up with alternative endings and stuff for the short film. And over the years as well, I'd noticed someone else had it up on YouTube, and it used to be up on a platform called Atom Films, which is gone now, but it was a short platform. And there was a lot of commentary, sort of people asking, I wonder what happens next. So really, that was where it came from. I wonder what happens next. And over the years, like from 2007 on, I've tried writing different versions of it. There's been bits of interest from the States over the years. You know, it's been hot for a while, and then it goes nowhere, and we let it drop, and it's gone again. And so it just was the right time that when it happened.
Absolutely. I was going to ask then kind of what was the process from script to screen, and kind of the length of it from that. But it kind of, ever since the success of 10 Steps, it's kind of always been mulling away.
Well, look, it's gone through so many different versions. And, you know, in 2007, the film board had a thing called the Catalyst Project. And I entered 2 scripts into that. One was Savage, which was my first feature in the end. And the other was a version of the 10 Steps, which was just a sort of like the short film extended. So it didn't really work because there wasn't enough, you know, there's just not enough in the short film. And that's the beauty of the short film. You don't have to really get into the characters. You don't have to get into the mythology. It's just a simple idea. But so that didn't work. And then over the years, then when we did start getting a bit more serious, I think in around 2016, I wrote a version, and it had the short film as a prologue, and a new family moved in. And, you know, that wasn't really working. The characters weren't working for anybody. And also the mythology, I've gone through so many different versions. There would have been Irish mythology was in there at one stage, instead of, like, at the moment it's mathematics, but you know, there was Druids, and Balor, the one-eyed king of the Fomorians, was in there at one stage. And then it was just really like through maybe script editing meetings and processes like that, you know, where they put you under a lot of pressure. And I realized that, you know, I couldn't really answer them, because you can always try answering, and, like, you know, and you're just really talking, your mouth's moving, and they're going, it's not fixing the problem. So they don't really let you off the hook. And so I realized that the easiest way to get through this and have a character that was strong was to have a parent, the mother, who's desperately looking for her daughter, because it sort of solved a lot of things. And it's a very immediate, empathetic sort of hook where people understand. And, you know, add into that she feels a little guilty because she hasn't really been present. And already, like, you know, the characters are getting richer. So it was really when that happened. And then I think as well, when I decided that the mythology was going to be interconnected with mathematics, that I think it all started to fully come together. And I know the producer, Conor Barry, said the first day he read the treatment, because I had done a lot of different versions of this, and the first day he read the treatment of this, he said he thought we were going to make it. So, you know, that's coming from him.
That's great that it kind of, a little piece of the puzzle then just kind of clicked in. And because I think people never really realize how many drafts and processes and treatments and stuff that films go through, you know, before kind of it feels like, okay, now we have it.
It depends on the script, because some scripts are they're clearer in their idea, they're more original in their idea, they're a very, you know, simple, direct idea, personal story or something, and there's no real way around it. You might change little things. Whereas when you're writing for want of a better word, a commercial movie that really doesn't have any hard themes or personal connection, it can go anywhere. You can change it any way you like. So that's where you nearly can end up rewriting and taking things everywhere. So
absolutely. And so you briefly touched then obviously on the mother and the main character looking for her daughter. So what was the kind of casting process like? Because you've got such a great cast there with Aisha Cooper, who can almost be called a bit of a scream queen now at this stage, which I think is really, really cool, and Owen Mackin and stuff as well. What was the journey like getting them on board?
it was pretty easy, to be honest with you. Like Owen, I've known since ages, and he was in my first film. He had a smaller role in Savage, so I've known him for years. So also Richie Bulger, one of the producers, has worked with Owen, produced his film Here Are the Young Men. Was the so that and Connor, the other producer who I have a company with, knows Owen very well. Like, so it was very easy getting Owen. And then Owen's agent is also Alicia's agent, so it was very easy to get a script to her. So it was quite easy. Obviously it could have gone wrong. Alicia could have been wrong, but she was really nice when I spoke to her. She was anything I thought. She was exactly the same ideas about the character, and even stuff that I was sort of skirting around and I was leading up to, she would say before I'd say it. Like, she'd say, I'm thinking of dyeing my hair for the character, and I was going, okay, great. I didn't know how I was going to say that. And then, so that the leads were very easy, but then it was a little harder. I mean, obviously, it's, some of the sort of cameo roles are the sort of day players, like Mary Mullen and Aaron Monaghan and Andrew Bennett. They're like, in a way, we sent them the script and they were on, but they're great to get because they're just brilliant, and they just arrive for the day, which is very hard to do, to jump into a crew that you don't know and just deliver. And they were all brilliant. The hardest was probably casting the actors who played the two children of the family. Because of COVID, we couldn't do any live auditions. So it was like tapes would come in of lots, and then I would sing, I'd shortlist down to maybe 3, and then how did that work? Then there might have been a meeting like this, where you're trying to give directions and they're acting over the Zoom. And it's not, like, the thing is, it's not ideal. But the two actors that I chose, Dylan and Abby, were so good that really, talent sort of shines through, comes through the screen. So in a way, I was really lucky there. And we had a great casting director, Emma Gunnery. So
absolutely, because I was going to ask about the two young actors, because I think it's quite tough to find really, really good young actors, let alone, because horror is such a specific genre as well, let alone young actors can kind of just get on board, come in, with all of these mad ideas and, just give everything. And the two of them are just fantastic in it. They're really, really great. Another kind of character, I guess, in a way, that I wanted to ask about is the house.
oh, yeah.
Because it definitely does feel like it just becomes a bit of a character. It's incredible. What was the kind of the recce process of that? Or did you know where you wanted to shoot it, or had you come across it before, or where was it shot?
Well, part of the financing structure was the RAP fund, which is shooting in the western counties of Donegal, Mayo, Sligo, Galway, Clare, Roscommon, Leitrim, I think. I hope I haven't missed any counties there, but I think that's all of them. Anyway, that's their whole thing, is to fund films, is to partly fund films that will shoot over there. So it's to decentralize the filmmaking from Dublin, incentivize us to go and shoot in these counties. And when we're scouting, I think we scouted first in Sligo, because they were saying Sligo would be a good place. And then it transpired that Roscommon wasn't getting enough love. As in, when I say that, there's lots of films using the RAP fund, but say a lot of them have used Galway or Mayo.
Yeah.
Like Normal People would, I think, shot in Mayo. And so in a way, they have to make it fair. So each county within the scheme gets, so we were pointed towards Roscommon. So really it was looking in Roscommon, and I had looked in Sligo and I hadn't found a house I was happy with. So funnily enough, in Sligo we looked, or in Roscommon we looked, and there was probably maybe 10 of these big houses. I'm not sure. That's a number I'm just pulling out of the air. But when I was looking for a house with a long corridor with a door. I knew I wouldn't get a cellar in the house we'd have to build, and I just wanted that long corridor to a door. And I couldn't find it in any of the houses. And then the closest one, when we went into that house, there was a big, beautiful open. I mean, the outside looks great, but the inside has this lovely open hallway with this open staircase, and had a long hallway leading to a dining room door and another corridor. But, you know, the production designer said, look, we can put a wall, we can build our own cellar door, and we can put in our own cloakroom sort of area. Because obviously they'd have to turn left, or they'd have to turn left or right. They couldn't go straight down because there is no stairs. So we were having to match this to the studio, to the set. So yeah, when I walked into that place, it was immediately obvious. Everybody liked it. There was no arguing. There was, you know, from, you know, the DOP to the production designer to myself, we all just liked it. Yeah.
So a bit of movie magic was done there with the cellar door.
Yeah.
And so I guess, what was the difference, or did you find a difference between, because the house is quite, you know, you're in that kind of one location, and it's so specific to the film, contrasting to some other films like you've done, like The Pilgrimage, which was kind of such an epic with, you know, vast landscapes and kind of bigger casts and that kind of stuff. How did you find the difference, or did you find a difference in shooting those kind of different films, different scales?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a huge difference in many different things, like the scale of Pilgrimage, between the amount of just cast, like every day that you'd have to cover, and always being outside in the elements, stunts, horses, special effect. I mean, period cost. I could go on and on about
Yeah.
but this is very different because it's present day, and yes, you could say it's all contained in one house. The common thing with all of them is time, and I think that's really what directors deal with all the time, is running out of time on a low budget anyway. Like, I have to say, it's always the biggest problem is running out of time to shoot, to get your scenes, to get all the shots you want. And the biggest difference I noticed was, in Pilgrimage, my call sheet for a day might say scene 20. That was it. Or if I was unlucky, I'm not unlucky, it might say scene 20 and scene 8, because we'd found that the scenes were short enough that we'll do one before lunch. And then we chose the locations really well, that we could shoot one scene here, but without moving the crew, which takes a lot of time, we can shoot another scene round the corner. So, you know, it was sort of very economical like that. But what I'm trying to say is my call sheet would say scene 20 maybe for the day. And then on the 10 steps, or the cellar as it's called now, my call sheet might say scene 2, scene 4, scene 3, scene 11, scene 9, scene 20, scene 21, scene 36. It might have 20 different lines on it, and each of them requires a costume change, a makeup change. It was really, really complicated. And you know, you might think because you're in a house that it's all, you know, you're there. And we were there for 3 of the weeks. So it was 2 weeks out, but maybe a tiny bit longer than 3 weeks. But it might have been like 17 days in the house. But the thing is, the way we were shooting it, the way we wanted it to look, is that if we moved from the sitting room to the hall, it wasn't just like, okay, let's all walk outside the door and start shooting now. There's an hour's our lighting and preparing and dressing the sets, or even longer sometimes. So, you know, my rule there was only 2 locations within the house per day. So, but because there'd be lots of scenes in these different rooms, we would try, and it was just more finicky. That's the best way of describing it. More finicky.
Yeah. Interesting. And I think, like, the film, it definitely has that really kind of classic horror style, film style to it, with the kind of a modern vibe on it, and it feels very atmospheric and really elevated. I really, really, really enjoyed it. You know, we've got the old house that they got cheap in the auction, and the character who senses something wrong and isn't believed until it gets really bad, and then the outside help coming in, and I think the film has a really great pace, which I think is really important. You know, we kind of start into the action quite early on, which is great because it really grips us. You know, we're really invested. But I wanted to chat about the score in the film, because I'm always really fascinated with horror film scores and how important they are to the genre. And because, you know, the way sometimes people say, you know, it's not half as scary if you watch it on mute, you know, because the score can almost, like that again with the house, become another character. So what was the scoring process like for that with your composer and stuff?
Well, you know, Stephen McKeown, the composer, I have worked with since 2001. He did I saw a short, I think it was Frank Berry's short, The Black Suit, disappeared now, you'll never see it. But I remember noticing the music in it and going, that's really good. And I knew also Kling Films at the time. Damien O'Donnell had made a film called 35 Aside, and I think it was also Stephen. So I was noticing Stephen's name on shorts. He also did a feature for Cathal Black called Korea. Anyway, I just noticed his name. And I contacted him and I said, "If no money, would you do it?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." So he was really open. And for years, Stephen was really open to working with people on their shorts for free. So he did Innocence for me. It came out in 2002. And I worked with him then on every short after that, apart from one of them which didn't have music in it. I worked with him on all the shorts. I worked with him on all of my features, except for, actually, I've just realized there was a co-production we did with Holland, Dutch co-production, and we needed to use a composer from Holland there, so he didn't do that one, Love Eternal. But anyway, I've worked with Stephen on all of them, and he did Pilgrimage for me, won an IFTA for Pilgrimage. He's brilliant. So what was it like? Because I sort of know him so well, it's nearly like you just know. And
That's
also
safe.
Yeah, and maybe with certain films I might sit with him for more and really like try and get in, get him under the skin of how I'm thinking. But in a way, it wasn't that I was worried. Like, it's not as if I was making a subtle film or trying to be different. I was making a commercial horror film. So like Stephen, he can do that in his sleep. He's just done The Hole in the Ground. So so I knew everything was okay. So I mean, how was it? I think I gave it to him. I came out when he said he was ready. And when I came out, the only thing I noticed was that I really liked the sort of second half. And in the first half, I think I said to him that he was being too respectful. He was sort of keeping, he was saying, "Yeah, but I'm just trying to keep it low key, allow you hear what they're saying." And even in some parts in the second half, he was saying, "I'm trying to, I don't want to overpower the dialogue there." And I was just going, "Look, there's no point, Stephen. There's we're not making a subtle film. To use the quote from Spinal Tap, turn it up to 11. I mean, that was really, and once I gave him that sort of note, that permission, I went back the second time to hear it. And yeah, then it was just sort of pounding stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. And how did you kind of build that trust with your performers? Because I imagine shooting a horror can be completely different to an action or a drama, because there has to be a lot of kind of trust there in the post-production, the score, the effects, and the kind of the building of suspense and stuff like that. What was that like on set, kind of setting those kind of atmospheres for the performers?
Well, whether it's trust or atmospheres, like the thing is, I mean, I don't know how other directors work with actors, but in a way, I don't really. I mean, look, they are doing a different job to everyone else in the crew. There is an emotional element to what they're doing that you've got to be aware and respectful of. But having said that, I do sort of treat them just as anybody, as people. So in a way, that's, my approach. And I don't really try and overcomplicate things. I think if you cast well, you sort of got it. I don't mind. Some actors I want to discuss their characters way more, and some don't. And I'm open to that. I have the answers to nearly all the questions. And I do think that really by the time you get on set, all of that stuff should be out of the way and everyone knows what they're doing. And then really all you're really doing is giving very small fine-tuning notes, whether, just making sure everyone's keeping on track with the tone and everything, of where, or the pitch of where they should be within the sort of the dynamics or the arc of the whole film. And with trust, like, I don't know, well, see, I've known Owen and Owen knows my work, so in a way that probably helps. And as I say, yeah, I don't try and over control them, and so I'll only really step in or say something if it's just. And I do know with Alicia, she said it during one of the interviews, that she had been a bit pent up and she was really ready to go after 2 weeks quarantine. And in the very first scene, she was sort of really giving it socks. And my only note was just, let's try one where it's just a little more content. I'm a fan of bringing acting down most of the time anyway. I'm not, I sort of, my sensors of worry go off when I start to see things too much, unless it's a really dramatic scene. But otherwise, I like to keep things a little more contained. That's just my own personal.
Absolutely. Well, I think for a film that's kind of such a specific genre, you know, being a horror film, the performances are really beautiful. Like they're really lovely and kind of understated, but in the right places, you know. And you kind of briefly mentioned quarantine and stuff there, but obviously I imagine when that was when she was coming over from America. But was there any kind of issues with COVID or putting the film back or anything like that, or was it kind of quite nice and smooth?
Yeah, we were supposed to shoot. We were supposed to shoot in the summer, or in the spring. So it was cancelled. And obviously, we were scouting in February, and we knew that this was coming, but nobody wanted to believe it. But then March, obviously, was all locked down. But you know, there's a couple of things there. One is, okay, delayed us 6 months, but if I had shot in the summer, I would have had no nighttime, as in, because I shot in November, I was able to schedule the days so that, you know, when I say lunch would have been, you know, late, wasn't like lunchtime. So we would have done 5 hours daylight, taken a break, eaten, and then shot 5 hours in darkness. And it still didn't bring us past 12 o'clock, which is where it gets really expensive for the producers. They just won't let you shoot past 12. Well, I'm sure if you have the cash, you can. And I have before. I shot 2 weeks of night shoots, but that doesn't seem to happen anymore. It's very expensive. So, so that was an advantage there. Yeah, I mean, look, we all had to sort of go down and stay there away from our families for a long time as well. But you know, there was, and also wearing masks is difficult all day long, especially with glasses. I reading glasses, but they fog up when I'm looking at the monitor. What else? You know, testing 2-3 times a week is a pain. And we did catch one case of COVID at the very last week, and it was grand, didn't spread to the set, so it works, the testing. But you know, the advantages were that in Roscommon, I had written like an advertising agency. It's very hard when you're in Roscommon to find a building that's going to look like a sort of city, you know. So it was very hard. Like, but yet there was a place called Roscommon County Council. It's a very modern building, beautiful building. Everything you see in the film, from the police station, the outside of the school, the staircase, the advertising, that's all in Roscommon County Council. And it's so interesting, the building, because there's different parts that look different all around it. So because of COVID, obviously they were all working from home, so we were able to get in. So that's another thing that, you know, that was an advantage. So having to shoot in November and having to shoot during COVID was an advantage in many ways.
Yeah, a lot of pros and cons for sure. And like, you've written a lot of the films that you've directed, and in this particular case, you wrote, directed, and produced as well. How do you find juggling all of those roles at the same time, or kind of are you able to switch off one and click into another, or what's that like?
Well, the producing role is a sort of producer in name only. Like, it's the exec producer. It's not really, I mean, it's one of these things they give out like candy to people, but it's nice to have. Gotcha. The writing and directing is grand because, like, you know, a lot of the time you're writing, and that's what you do in between making films. You know, it's a long time in between making films sometimes. So hopefully, but anyway, it's so that's fine. You know, I've written a lot, like a lot more than has been made. I would never say I'm the best writer in the world, but I've definitely picked up a lot of skills, and I definitely know how to navigate it, and I can talk the talk as well. I know all the script writing books, and so but I definitely write for a reader rather than for the director. Even though I'm a fan of a sparse writing style, which it would be, you know, not chunks of paragraphs, line by line. And so it can end up, even when I'm then shortlisting, it's very handily also sort of broken into beats and is nearly ready to shortlist. So I don't find it hard at all. And I don't find it, I'm never precious about stuff. If people want to change lines, that's fine. So yeah, and I can be brutal, and, you know, and the process of being a storyteller, like an editor, or sorry, a writer, doesn't end there. It goes into the editing process, which actually can even be the toughest part of where you're cutting stuff out of your story, you know. So I mean, thankfully in this This time round, everything we shot ended up in the film, and I think that the only other time I had that experience was with Savage. On the other two films, we're talking 45 minutes. And when I say 45 minutes, it's not like we're talking whole scenes, which took whole days to shoot, have just disappeared from the films. And it's sort of very heartbreaking, because not only is it story stuff going, but you realize the waste of resources it was, because you had a whole crew shooting for a day, and yet you ran out of time in a scene that's in the film, and yet you could have used all that time. But you never know beforehand what's going to, well, you should, but it doesn't always work like that.
Absolutely, I can only imagine. And have you found kind of any major differences to when you direct someone else's writing? Like, do you find any more pressure, or is it actually quite nice to just kind of separate from script to director? No,
I don't really, because I haven't had to do anything that I wasn't 100% behind. So I don't know how directors are, if they're doing something for the cash, or I don't know how they feel about that, because I haven't had to do that. I directed a short film which Connor Barry, my producer, wrote years ago, and I did Pilgrimage, which Jamie Hannigan wrote. And the thing is, I was in from the ground level with Jamie. I developed it with him. We spent many times talking about it. So I, in a way, feel ownership over many things in there. And I understand, once you understand the script, really well, there's not a problem directing it. You can answer any question anyone comes to you with. So I don't know how it would be if you were parachuted into a job, a month before it shoots, and you're having to answer questions, and you nearly have to go back to the writer and ask them, what is that would be hard, I think. But I haven't noticed any difference, because I've been so embedded in the scripts that I've been involved in.
Absolutely. Well, that's what you want. I know you briefly touched on it before, and I just wanted to ask, with the kind of mythology kind of element in the film, because it has to be kind of so detailed and fleshed out, did you find that you nearly had to write that separately to the script, to make sure that kind of all the details and the little bits were in it, and then kind of slot it in, or did they both just kind of fit in together? Because it's quite detailed.
I can't remember the exact. I know I wrote a treatment. I think I wrote a treatment. So that's probably, and that treatment, would have been focusing on all that mythology and stuff. But like, in fairness, like, the mythology is sort of hokum. It's nonsense, really. Like, I mean, yes, there's some thought behind it, and there's some logic the way it's, but it is sort of, it's nearly like a red herring or a MacGuffin, nearly, just to get a demon at the end.
Yeah.
But did I find it hard? No, I because I had to write a treatment, and I was never a fan of writing treatments. I have written them, but I think it was an advantage in this time round, and just recently for another project we're doing, for an application, I was forced into writing a treatment, and I think, again, it was the best thing that ever happened. So I really resent and resist writing treatments, but actually I'm starting to warm to them, because I think they help with what the question you're asking there. How do you construct something? I think they help with that sort of the plan, basically. Yeah.
And I don't want to necessarily ruin it for anyone, but we kind of briefly touched on it at the very beginning, with it's kind of it is quite an unusual ending, in the sense of that kind of, what happens next, or which can be really oddly satisfying, that you don't get what you want from the ending, that kind of conclusion or resolution. Was that something that you really wanted to have in the film, that kind of leave it up to the audience of making up maybe what might happen next? Or,
well, that came really from the original short film. So the script didn't come from characters, it came from the original short film, and it was a plot device. And if I was going to extend that, it was like, how do I end it? Because like that, the end of the short film has been the strong thing that everyone loves. So what do I do to top it? And originally my idea was, well, can I pull the same thing off again, but just differently, maybe visually, rather than, because it's done with sound in the short film. So really, that's how I was thinking. And I just knew that wasn't enough. It was like good, but it wasn't enough. And then one day I was just looking at Escher paintings or drawings online or something, the Escher drawings where the staircases all loop into each other. And I remember it was that when I just went, yeah, maybe I could do something. I can do something with this. So in a way, what I'm really saying is it was all plot based. Like, so I was reverse engineering back from these twists when I was dealing with and that's probably what made it hard in all along was, because, really the characters should be driving plot. Whereas in a way with this, I wasn't that way at all. It was plot driving character all the time. So.
And so, with the nature of the podcast, I usually like to ask my guests if there was a movie in their life that had a big impact, I guess, on their lives, if there was ever a movie. Because I don't like to ask what's your favorite film, because it mightn't be a favorite, but it could be one that you remembered as a kid, or remembered to go, oh God, I want to be a filmmaker, or if you have a favorite Irish film.
Well, when I have a list on my phone, and the problem is many of these films at different parts of my life where, like I could say Star Wars got me opened to, because I went to see that in the cinema so many times, because we used to go at birthday parties as kids. I remember going, the thing was go to Star Wars, go to McDonald's. I went about 10 times in my primary school. But that wasn't, I didn't think of making films. I remember watching Rosemary's Baby, and many films that I can't even remember now growing up, just late at night as I was a teenager. But I do remember watching The Wicker Man, I can't remember what age, and thinking that there's definitely more going on here, and just starting to think, having an interest. I mean, I could go on and on, right? Because there was things like, The Breakfast Club, even Taxi Driver was another one that made me go, oh wow, this. And then, when I started studying, I think Psycho and Rear Window had a huge effect on my film, and it's still to this day. I'm a real fan of what the camera can do because of Hitchcock. I could go on and on here, right? Like, because I've got so many films from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Kubrick, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But then when I was in college in Dunleary, I remember a short film about killing really having a profound effect on me as well. And also the Battle of Algiers. Then I left college and I was finding it very hard to make a film. I'm skipping over loads of stuff here, like The Vanishing, Persona. But I was finding it hard to, get excited, and I couldn't get a feature made. And I remember watching Gaspar Noé's film, Sol Contra 2, I Stand Alone. Now, look, it's not a perfect film by any means, but it had a profound effect on me and its visceral feeling. And I think I took that into making Savage, Again, I've got so many, like I'm just skipping through. I can just see films here, like all the way through, but so I won't bore you with them.
No, it's great. I go off and take notes about what everyone has said, so it's great. I'll be making my own list.
The thing is that there's so many films on this. Well, there's about 30 films on this list, but each one of them I can pinpoint. Like I'm looking here, I see Boy A, Get Carter, Tyrannosaur, all of these, and then there's some Tarkovsky films there as well. But and very recently, I don't know why, but I keep going back to the that film Arrival. I really love that film, man. Anyway, I could talk for ages, but the reason I have so many is that each one of them individually at a moment in time has an effect on, you see, not just making you want to make films, you've got to want to keep making films. And, there's periods in my life when I become disillusioned or whatever. So, and every so often the film does come along and just makes you go, oh yeah, this is why you're making films,
Yeah, I think as well, you can watch a film, you can be in one frame of mind one day and watch a film and take it completely different if you saw it, it depends on where you are in your life as well and how you receive it. And yeah, so absolutely.
So, favorite Irish film, I remember when going to see In the Name of the Father in the cinema, and I went back the very next day to see it because I liked it so much. But I wouldn't say it's my favorite. And then I really loved Neil Jordan's The Butcher Boy as well. And I had read the book before that. I loved it as well. But actually, if I was push come to shove and I was to ask, now it's not an Irish director, but I do remember at festivals being asked, what do you recommend as an Irish film? And I remember it was in Sitges one year and I said, Hunger. So I really think Hunger, I have to say, just outbeats everything. It's just one of the
incredible
most
film.
powerful films I've ever seen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Brendan, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to chat to me. And here at Irish Film London, we wish you all the best with all of your future successes. And hopefully we will have you on here again very soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a million. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's it for this week's interview. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you to Culture Ireland and the Irish Emigrant Support Programme. Myself and Gerry will be back in a fortnight with a brand new interview. See you then.